But no, like, I think just like how that coaching space blossomed during COVID, and then now it's changing. I think it's the same thing for conferences, communities, and all of those things. Like, I think we are in a change and a recession. I know I don't know if somebody's supposed to send me a text message when it's official, but I didn't get my text, so I'm just going to say that that's what it is. Fight me if you want. To add to that, one of the things that's always very disheartening for me, and this is actually why I struggle to like make friends in the space, is thinking that somebody's reaching out to me to like build a genuine friendship. Like, I'm thinking like, oh, this is great. Like, and this happened recently. Like, this person reached out to me. They've been in the space for a minute, and she just was like, you're doing amazing work, so on and so forth. And I was like, oh, okay, girl, let's hang out. She comes, we go to lunch, and then next thing I know, she's asking me for a job. And I'm like, oh, like, you made this seem like you wanted to like be friends.
Yeah.
I'm not friends with the people that work for me, girl. This is not friendship. Like, what is this?
Right.
And like, I wish more people would recognize, like, you don't just meet people and start asking them for stuff. Like, it's very strange.
Yeah.
And it also makes me feel like, damn, is this what these brands be going through? Right. Like, can you imagine, like, you think somebody's like trying to be your friend, and you're like, oh, I met somebody new. I called my mama and told her about it. Right. And next thing you know, it's like, can you give me some money? And it's like, huh? What?
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't think about that. Like, we look at brands as just like cash cows.
And they're people.
Yeah,
they're actual people who make these decisions and sign these checks.
Right.
So imagine, like, and that's the other thing I want like people to be more mindful of. Like, when we say build relationships, don't like befriend people to then secretly want something from them. It's inauthentic, and it also just doesn't feel good. Like, this has happened to me several times, and it just doesn't feel good. And it's just like, I'm a human being first. Yeah. So
wait, can I ask you? So if someone is listening to this and they feel like, well, I do want to get like partnerships, I know that I need to build a relationship, just like you're saying. How would you suggest they go about it in a way that doesn't feel kind of like you about to, I don't know if you watch Successions or Billions, but
you about to come in and swoop me.
Right.
Honestly, the best way I would say is, one, be upfront. I think if a lot of these people had out the gate told me that, hey, this is something I need and what I'm looking for, I give freely. Like, I don't really hold bars. If a camera is not on, I tell you all my business. But I'm one of those people who, if you just ask me, I more so likely will tell you. Like, I will connect you with someone. There's levels, though. Like, there's a certain level of people that I'd be like, you're going to have to relax there, okay, baby? Like, they not one of the people who just like random strangers email.
Right.
I'll reach out to them. If they say, okay, there's no problem. And then there's some people I'm not going to reach out to because I see your caliber of work. But I would say first, I'm a firm believer that how you do anything is how you do everything. So whenever I see how people treat their own brands, if you're not doing the work already, me giving you money is not going to change it. Right. Like, you can do a lot with a little. Fiverr, you could pay somebody $10. Like, you can make a lot happen. So first I would say, be transparent. Like, just out the gate, let it be known that this is a need I have. Yep. And take away that this is a need I have from you. Instead, let it be known this is what my needs are. Right. As you build this partnership and this relationship with someone, they'll know what your needs are, and they'll want to help you. Yeah. But I think it's this assumption, like, when you take the you part out of it, because you really don't know what these brands have going on or people, you then find out that, like, oh, they may have better access to somebody else who can actually help me, who actually is in need of what I have to offer. Right. So that's the first piece. The other piece is actually take time to ask people, what is it that they need? Yeah. Like, the amount of, like, if people would just ask me, hey, I want you to be a part of this. I know your bandwidth is probably tight. What could I do to help you so that this way this is something that you could do? Right. I would feel much more inclined to be like, actually, could you help me with this? Because I think, I feel like you might have some experience with that. Versus it being a, hey, I need you to promote my this, add it to your newsletter, do this, do that. And it's like, I'm already the bigger brand. That's just the truth of the situation. Right. What the hell am I getting out of this? Right. I would be an asshole to be like, you got to pay for it. Because then it's like, you supposed to be for the community. You making me pay. I'm a fellow Black creator. And it's like, so I get nothing?
Right.
Like,
right.
I just got to do the work and get nothing.
Right.
This is absurd. And that's how these big brands feel.
Yeah.
You're helping them in exposure. Baby, your audience. Come on now. Come on.
Right.
Let's make it make sense.
Right.
So that's the big thing I would say there. Stop treating people as if, like, you just see dollar signs.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of times, like, if you're in town and you know somebody lives there and you want to build a relationship, hit them up.
Right.
Like, hey, I'm in your city. I know we don't know each other well. I would love for us to go to lunch. Yeah. I have built a lot of great relationships that way. And months later, I offer them based off of what I'm like, oh, I see online that they said that they need X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Let me help you. Yeah. And that's another piece. We have to stop being so secretive about what we need. Like, you'll notice I don't shut up about the fact that 2022 was hard as shit with Black Pod Festival. That's intentional. Right. I want it to be known. Like, people always say to me, like, everything seems like it comes so easy to me. Yeah. I want y'all to know this did not come easy. This was hard. Right. And that's what we have to start doing, is putting it out. That's why I feel like your transparency is the key to your growth. Yep. Like, you put out your failures, your successes, how much you've made, and your goals, and people want to help you achieve those goals because you're being real about it. You're not acting like you out here as 6-figure coaches driving in Lamborghinis, and it's like, when did that happen? Lord, how you get a Lambo? Help it play out. Can I get $20?
Right.
You know, like, it's very authentic. Yeah. But my question to you, because I know Matthew's giving me that look of, I've given you the 5-minute mark 10 times. I've accepted that this is going to have to be 2 episodes, Matthew, so just accept it. You're going to have to accept it, too, because we're going to have to split this up. The first half, he was asking me questions. At this point, this is his part.
Right.
Okay? So we're going to make this a 2-parter, because we here now. So you going to stop?
I'm just asking the questions the audience wants. They need more Ona. They told me get more Ona, so that's what I'm doing. So
not the audience told you.
Yeah, he was like, we don't know nothing about her. I was like, I got it. So that's what I was doing.
He said, I'm reversing this, and we're going this way. But no, like, what would you say some of your biggest win? Like, what was that first win that made you feel like, oh shit, like this is a thing?
Oh, that's a great question. For me, my biggest win is not necessarily like correlated with like money or opportunity size. It's more so like a specific feeling I got at a specific time. Okay. And there was a time like maybe like 4 or 5 months after I started. At this point, I'm being consistent, but I don't know for sure that like, hey, this is gonna work, or like that I'm even enjoying it. Honestly, you're in that like exploratory weird phase.
You're not sure what you're doing.
I don't know what I'm doing. That's exactly it. Yeah, I'm just trying everything, and people think like they're giving me compliments. They think I'm enjoying it, but behind the scenes,
there's a strategy. Yeah, you're like, I'm just winging this at this point.
Exactly. And it just so happened there was like a brand I wanted to work with, and they hit me up, and I think they saw a video that went like baby viral, and they were like, oh, we like this, let's work together. And I remember seeing that specific email. Actually, okay, it was Spotify. It was the first time I worked at Spotify. It was last year, and I think I can't remember where I was, but I remember getting that email, and my heart dropped. I just knew that like, okay, this is my lane. I understand what I'm doing. I understand what I'm not doing. I understand what I can get paid for. I understand what I don't want to do. And it just clarified so much. And there's like a level of like peace that I had. And that's kind of how I look at like my content journey. I'd say like there's like a level of like clarity that I've gained the longer I do it. And I feel like I'm okay with like my size as a creator. I don't necessarily feel like I need to get bigger for what I do. Like I could make a decent living with like my current size, with like the relationships I have. And so I kind of look at it as like a job from that perspective. It's like I'm not like an influencer that needs 100,000 followers. With my exact followers and the right relationships, I could make a decent living.
Oh, I like that. Like, I don't think y'all, let me break it down for y'all real quick. I don't think you just realize that he's basically talking about like being like happy with what you have.
Right.
Like so many people are always trying to like, well, what's next? Right. And what's next? And what next could be stress and anxiety attacks. Like if you like pull your life, come on, pull it together, be happy with this. So I love that. But you know, I have to bring this up because podcasting is kind of, the industry is going through it. Yeah. So my question to you is, what do you think of the future of podcasting right now and everything that's going on, from conferences, events being canceled, people being laid off? ad spend going down. What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
let's talk about it.
Great question. And I'll start by saying, like, I'm a very optimistic person, sometimes a little too much. So this may be a little off.
Okay.
But I do feel like that, like, I think the market, like the podcast market, has been like auto correcting from, I think, a lot of like hyper growth. And so I think we're kind of seeing a bit of like a shift, not just like financially and how people are investing in shows, how people are investing in like ad sponsorships, just like across the board, even just like actual podcast growth. I think we're seeing just like a reset across the board. I think whenever like something like this happens, I don't necessarily view it as like a bad thing. I think there's going to be like a lot of people that are going to come up on top, like the people being creative, being smart. Like you had an amazing episode on like doing a live show. Like I think people want more of that sort of stuff. Like we're tired of just like listening to stuff. We're not commuting, but like what are we doing? And so I think that's like how I've been trying to think about it. I also think we'll see like a lot of more integration. So we kind of see it with like podcasting and YouTube. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing a lot of creators kind of do the same thing where it's like, hey, my podcast sponsorships are kind of low, but what I can do is bucket like email sponsorships, podcast sponsorships, and I'll make a social media post for you. And you can still kind of make about the same money doing it that way.
I always felt like you should be doing that anyway.
Exactly.
Because like that's a bigger bang for your buck, especially if you're I think is it nano or micro content creator. Yep. Like you can go so much further because the fact that you're giving them so much than just your downloads. Like if your downloads is 200, I had a client who her downloads was literally 300 an episode, and somebody paid her $20,000 for the season.
Wow. That's crazy.
For the season, and it was 12 episodes. And I was just like, I remember like she came to me after she got the sponsorship. So I thought I was finna get in there and the downloads was finna be through the roof. I was like, baby, we up. I got in that account. I said
200.
I said, is it broken? What's happening here? Yeah. Let me click last month.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think we put too much pressure on those things when brands don't. Like they care more about what you've built because she's built an ecosystem for her very niche platform. And so that's the piece there. In my episode where I talk about the podcast industry shakeup, I talked about the fact that I think this is good. Because Joe Rogan making 200 million or whatever, ridiculous. You see I'm stuttering because I'm still struggling to comprehend how much money they gave this man.
Insane
amount of money. This had to happen because we would not have a solid foundation. And I think we are now going in and building that foundation, and it's no longer this frenzy of like, oh, podcasting, everybody get to it. Oh my God, everybody grab. Yeah. And I think sponsors are now understanding like the landscape better. Now, the event space, though, because I noticed how you ain't say nothing about that. So I'm taking it back.
Right.
So what are your thoughts about what's going on with podcast events? For those who don't know, She Podcast has had to cancel their event and move to a virtual. Who's the other one? I think they're in London. Women podcasting, women something. I'll put it in the show notes. I'm so sorry, guys. They've had to cancel their event. I think Women of Color had to cancel their retreat. I feel like there's somebody I might be missing, but there's been a lot of cancellations. What are your thoughts on what's going in the space?
Yeah, so I have very strong opinions about this.
Ooh.
Yeah, I feel like I think like there needs to be a very hard reality check for like consumers of content. And I bucket myself in this like group as well. I think people say they like things, but they're not necessarily willing to pay for things. And I think that like that in itself is like, okay. I just think we need to like we need to know that like that is who we are, that we are not willing to pay for stuff instead of giving people the illusion that we are. And so I think like She Podcast is like, they're putting these events because people are saying we want more of this. And even just from like the outrage when they announced that it was going to move to virtual, people were semi upset. And I think that their level of like upsetness is not correlated with like their investment, both like consumers, people attending, and sponsors. You disagree?
So I am doing a whole episode about this, so I'm going to just give high level on this.
Okay.
I don't think people are upset with the cancellation of the live event. People are upset in not getting their money back. They're not getting refunds.
Okay.
So if I paid you $500, because their tickets were not cheap. If I paid you $500 for something, like imagine you paid to use the studio for $500. Right. And I then said, hey, you're not going to be able to physically come in here and use the space. I will help you record this on Squadcast. And I'm not giving you your $500 back.
Right.
What would you tell people about me?
I would be furious. And I'd say a lot of things that I can't say on this podcast. But I understand. I didn't know that they weren't refunding people.
So then
that's I think that's fair. That's warranted. Their upsetness is warranted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the piece that nobody's talking about. Everybody's just like, oh, give them grace. Give me my money back and I'll give you all the grace you want. Because it's my hard-earned money. If something is changing in the stipulations of what I gave you money under these guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me my money back.
Yeah.
So that's the piece.
I didn't know that. That's
They're
crazy.
not giving a refund. They're instead giving you access to Podfest in Orlando in 2024.
Interesting.
But what if I didn't want to go to Podfest in 2024?
You literally can't.
What if I'm not available on those dates? What if I'm pregnant and I'm about to have a baby? Like, who knows?
Yeah. That's insane. I didn't know that. And virtual tickets are normally cheaper anyway. That's wild. But one last thought about like in-person events, like specifically conferences. I'm very kind of like interested in what's going to happen because I think some conferences are doing well. Like VidCon is technically not like a podcast conference, but it's like it's so insane how many people like go to it. It's almost like 30,000 people. And like because it's YouTube. Is
that the one from Think Media?
Nah, it's who owns it? I can't remember. But it's not Think Media. It's similar audience, similar space. Yeah, they're huge.
I want to be him when I grow
up. Yeah, they're awesome. But yeah, it's very interesting, and I think like I could see a world where like it's a YouTube conference technically, but I could see a world where it has like podcasting elements. Yeah.
Here's my limited thoughts that I'll say about conferences.
Yeah.
The world has changed since the pandemic. Mm-hmm. It's just drastically changed. And I think as conference creators, community builders, whatever you want to label yourself as, we need to take stock and actually ask our audiences is something they still want from us. I think we often do things year after year because that's what we do.
Yeah.
But we didn't stop to see, like, is this something you still want?
Yeah.
And my father, you'll hear me talk about my parents a lot because I talk to them about everything. My father said it best. He was like, nobody asked you to do none of this. Mm-hmm. So why are you upset with anybody about it?
Right.
And I was like, what you mean? He was like, you saw a need in the space. Mm-hmm. You decided to create space for it. Mm-hmm. This is all you.
Right.
Yes, they flocked to it. They liked it. Okay, but just like your life has changed, their life has changed.
Right.
And so I do think there's a need to reevaluate what conferences look like.
Yeah. What does that mean though? Like what give me
I'm doing an episode on it, so I'm trying not to say too much in this one.
We'll save it for the episode.
Yeah. But I think there needs to be, just like the coaching industry is slowly seeing its demise. Mm-hmm. I won't say full demise. Please do not come for me because I know y'all.
Yeah, we going in on coaches, and they are a bit. But we've been talking about coaches a lot.
Coaches go in, so please do not attack me. Okay, I don't want to get canceled or swarmed or whatever y'all be going on. But we're starting to see a lot of like people who became entrepreneurs during the pandemic go back to work, which is fine. Mm-hmm. Please, for the love of God, do not try to keep up with Jones and do what you got to do. Sometimes I want to go back to work. I want to sell everything in here. I'd be rich if I sold all this stuff. Maybe I'd
rack up.
I would buy property. I could have a good substantial down payment for a property.
Right.
That actually seems quite promising, actually. Huh.
Yeah.
Studio closed. Let's get out of here. No. But overall, I just think the same way that we've seen this shift since the pandemic, which we're technically still in, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, we are, Matthew. Who just came out and said that there's like new strains?
Yeah, I was just thinking that today.
They said that, and then they said it, and then a week before they said something else.
Right. Wait, I have a podcast suggestion. I think Matthew should have a microphone. He should be like on the podcast, maybe not face on the podcast, but he should be in the
behind
episodes.
The scenes.
Yeah.
We'll probably do that in the next studio. Yeah. I definitely want him and I to do a segment together.
Yeah.
Like the other day we were interviewing 2 new videographers, so we had to like record and like have them like, you know, take it, edit it just to see how they did.
Yeah.
And they were just like laughing at us, and it's like, to us it's our regular conversation. So I was just like, what the hell is so funny?
Right.
And they're like, is this how you guys are? And I'm like, yes. One of them was like, are y'all related? I'm like,
right.
No, we're not.
That's so funny.
So I'm trying to get him to get more comfortable with being on camera.
Yeah.
Even the fact that he spoke out loud behind camera.
Yeah, that's big progress.
What?
I like that.
Matthew would have lip synced to me in the past and just been like, well, you didn't get it, too bad.
Right.
Best of luck to you.
That's so funny.
And I say leave these moments in because I'm like, this is my podcast. I do what I want. Right. But no, like, I think just like how that coaching space blossomed during COVID, and then now it's changing. I think it's the same thing for conferences, communities, and all of those things. Like, I think we are in a change and a recession. I know I don't know if somebody's supposed to send me a text message when it's official, but I didn't get my text, so I'm just going to say that that's what it is.
Yeah.
Fight me if you want.
But and I will add too, like, I wonder sometimes if I do agree with you that it's changed, but I think it's changed in like the opposite of where you're gonna say it's changed. Like, I think people want more conferences than like before pandemic. And then I know it's not dated back then, and I'm not like planning. And then on the flip side, with like it being the recession too, because like you would think naturally with like the number of like layoffs and like job changes that maybe people like don't have the money, but then I show up to all these places and people are there spending money, whether it's, you know,
who do they look like?
That's a conversation for another day.
Because I was like, who do they look like? Let's be clear. Whenever I'm talking about what people want, I'm talking about us.
I agree, and I have some thoughts, but I want to save them until after your episode 2. But I get your position though.
I'm like, not our community.
Yeah, okay. Let's. This is the only thing I want to say about it.
Okay.
I don't know that there's really been any big change in our community from before the pandemic to now. Like, I feel like people weren't always investing that heavily in the things that like Black community gatherings. I don't think it's because like it's recession based or because it's like pandemic. I just think that's not what we do.
100% correct.
Yeah.
Our community doesn't spend money on things of value in that sense. They spend money on where celebrities go.
Facts.
Like, if a big name, let me get Joe Budden, which, hey, baby, come on. Come on. Like, Joe, you want to own Black Pie Festival with me? Because, baby, we can own this together.
Yeah.
I'll sell it to you, actually. You can have it.
You would actually be the perfect person to own it.
Have it.
Yeah.
Like, what are you saying to me? Yeah. I've thought about this.
Right.
So, Joe,
let's make it happen.
Let's make this happen.
Yeah.
I own 30%. Shoot, I don't need a majority stake.
Right.
Quite frankly, just run me my check every year and I'm fine.
Right.
You,
yes,
too, can have Black Pie Festival, baby. Because Joe, you're really an independent. You know, like you really.
Can we
like
talk about
the only celebrity who's for real and independent in how he built it? Now, granted, he might have some things, but you know, I ain't gonna hold you because we can still do business.
Oh man,
I ain't gonna be alone with you, but you know, we can do business.
Don't agree with everything.
Don't agree with everything.
You would be a great partner.
But you would be a great partner because he is genuinely the only celebrity who really has built his platform as a podcaster, as an independent.
1,000%.
And he really is the one who put Spotify on the map, if we're being honest.
1,000%.
I know they're one of your sponsors, so we're not going to talk about them.
1,000%. Thank you. I need to eat. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matthew, for censoring anything. No, I'm just kidding. No, I agree. And I was going to ask you about that. Let's talk about that real quick. Independence. What are your thoughts on it? And what, because I agree, like outside of Joe, there aren't any really big independents.
All the independents have joined networks. Like, think about it. The Horrible Decisions is now on Black Effect. What is that name of the show? It's slipping my DC Young Flies podcast. I'm so sorry.
85 South.
Thank you. Yeah. They're now on Black Effect. You know, like everybody who was once independent are now on a network. Good Moms, Bad Choices, they're not on a network. But if you really stop to think, all of these names I'm saying, they started their podcast back in 2018, 2017?
Yeah.
I do not know a Black podcast that is not by a celebrity that has blown up. Samaya. But she had a huge audience, so not another sex podcast. She just launched, I think, earlier this year or last year.
Okay.
But she had a huge platform beforehand.
Yeah.
And she's independent. But I don't really know a lot of podcasters that are Black in the last year or two who've been able to launch and become as big as everybody who launched back in 2018, 2017, 2016.
Yep. What do you consider independent? Like, you know how in music, if you're an artist, right, and you don't work with a label, you create your own album, but you have somebody help you distribute it or whatever, they would still consider you technically an independent.
I don't think that's independent.
What? You don't?
No, because having a distribution deal, everybody doesn't have access to that.
Oh, wow. I mean, but if we are considering it based on what everyone has access to, then things like free studio space, you would have to also consider that. Like,
I'm not independent anymore. Like, I've accepted that. Like, in the sense of like,
I don't know.
Like, I'm independent in the sense of like, Adode Media produces it, but Adode Media owns this podcast. If I decide I don't want to do this no more, Adode Media gets to say, no, you still have to, because it's bringing in business.
Yeah.
It's bringing in, like, I don't get to say that.
Yeah.
My marketing person be like, no, we still get a lot of leads from this show.
Right.
So it sounds like you're going to take your butt in that room and you're going to sit down and make this content. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make the content.
Right.
You know, like, I'm not independent. This business tells me what I talk about. Because sometimes I don't want to talk about podcasting.
Yeah.
I want to talk about other things.
Right.
I can't.
I hear you. I get what you're saying. I feel like if you own 100% of like your IP and you don't have any support on like someone growing your show for you, I consider you independent.
But guess what though? You're not independent, because here's the thing. You have to realize, like, I don't know everybody's contract, but a lot of these like Revolts, Black Effects, iHeart, they give you money for the production side of the house.
Facts.
So if somebody's giving you money to produce the show, and that's one less thing you have to worry about.
But I mean, how is that any different than like me just being an independent right now and calling up, Joe's Juice and saying like, yo, I'm going to do this show. Pay me $5,000 for production. I'll put a juice in the middle.
That's a sponsor. That's not the same.
So it's not the same price. How? They're paying you for ads.
Because
you're getting the production money for ads.
Because you're on their network. Like when you're on their.
Oh, so that's the thing to you that feels like because like you're getting an extra audience. You're getting your show.
Extra audience. You're also getting. And this is not everybody. Let me also make sure I say that, because I have worked with some brands who I'm like, damn, you got the short end of the stick. I don't know what happened here, but it's none of my business. But when you are on a network and they give you like ad roll, like, I think the other day I was listening to The Breakfast Club and an ad came for another podcast that's on their network.
Sure.
You want to put my podcast as an ad on your network? Because I let you. I will. Okay?
Just to be clear, we would like the opportunities. We just disagree that you're not independent.
Like, I always want to make sure it is clear.
Right.
I will work with you as long as you don't like murder people. Right. You're not racist. Yep. You're not out here like raping and pillaging or anything like that. Yep. What year are we in? I have no clue.
Okay,
but
wait.
Still.
Let me ask you one last question. If Joe Budden,
don't even bother saying one last question no more.
I know. So if Joe Budden takes his podcast, which we feel like is independent, and he has someone like Black Effect pay to maybe put them on iHeart for a small period of time, and they're paid, so it's almost just like they're trading the platform, access to the platform, but he still owns everything, and it's for a small period of time. You're saying he's not independent.
He's not. So I think to you look at independence as who owns the IP.
Yes.
That's not how I look at independence. I look at independence as like who pays for stuff.
But like, why?
Because it's about the money. That's what makes being independent
You still
hard.
own it. You own it.
I might own it, but if I didn't have Adode Media to fund, do you know how much all of this costs? Baby, I wouldn't be able to afford for none of this. I'd be like, well...
No,
I'll be sitting in my living room with my phone.
I agree. I'm saying you getting Adode to sponsor it or partner or pay for production. I'm saying that to me, that's just viewed as like a smart entrepreneurial business decision. It's like the artists that are about to release an album and they go to Apple and they're like, yo, we're about to release, we're independent. Can you put us on a separate editorial for this week? You're independent. That's just a smart business decision. You're like Chance the Rapper.
You know what? I'm putting it out there to the audience. I want you guys to shoot us an email.
Yes.
Let us know. What do you define as independent? If somebody is receiving iHeart money, right, Revolt money, are they independent just because they still own their IP?
Yes.
That's the question.
Please let us know.
Please let us know. Because I
thank you in advance for supporting my perspective.
I think you support me. Remember you're my audience, okay?
No, but I see your perspective. I get your point.
Because here's the thing. I feel like most independent creators, I know some people who were like, I will give over this IP if I can at least just make some money off of this thing that I'm passionate about. And that, to me, is also partly what's wrong with the industry now, is that so many people are doing it for the money and not for the art, not for the storytelling on all of those things. And don't get me wrong, ain't nothing wrong with that, okay? In this day and age, you need a little money.
Yeah.
But that's the truth of it. There's people who don't care about that.
Yeah.
And this is why the number one question I get isn't how can I be a good storyteller? It's not how can I ensure that I give the best content.
Oh, I know what it is.
It's not, how do I ensure that week after week I get better at my craft? It is. They haven't launched. They ain't picked a name. They haven't picked music. They ain't recorded. They ain't even got a co-host yet. Like, they got people that they want on their podcast. And Matthew's laughing because he knows exactly who I'm talking about. They want people on their podcast with them, but they haven't asked them to be guests or to be on the show as co-host. Yeah. But they want to ask me on this call that they did not schedule. They just called the studio phone. Hey, how do I make money with my podcast? Like, if I launch this and pay y'all to do this, you thinking like by the third episode I could make money?
Oh, man.
No.
You think like month 3 though?
It's third episode. I used to. Now I just say no. Right. In the past, I used to say, okay, like, maybe they got an audience. I'm like, what's your social media audience looking like? What's your newsletter looking like? I don't have none of that.
Right.
Get up and go. What?
Right.
What do you mean?
Right.
What am I supposed to do with this?
Right.
And they be looking at me like, make it enough.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't make it enough. There's nothing here.
Right.
With 3 episodes. They not a full month even.
Right.
And you think by the third episode I'd be able to like what? I'm thinking like, at least like get $1,000 a month.
Right. It ain't happening.
You think $1,000 a month is little too? They're like, a little change. I'm like, that's your change? Okay, baby.
Right.
Got it.
Do you think there's something wrong with like people that create content for Black people giving up their IP and selling like their ownership?
Nope. There used to be a time I would have said yes, but I'm tired.
Oh, I was not expecting that, but I appreciate the transparency.
Ain't nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. We talk, like right now, there's a lot of Black people who are talking a lot more about generational wealth, and I love it. But somehow we get upset with people when they do the things that is required to build generational wealth. So like, I'm going to use Mael Organics. She sold to, I think, Procter and Gamble or whoever, her hair care line. She still has a stake in it. The founder of Honey Pot, she sold as well. And people are outraged with them. Yep. Because how dare you? You are Black. You're supposed to do this for us. But guess what? Being a founder is exhausting. It is a lot of work. Having a team, having clients, it is a lot. And after a while, people have to have an exit strategy out of this. This is not sustainable for the rest of your days. Like I ask myself sometimes, like by the time you are 45, you cannot be in the studio every day. Yep. This is why Matthew gonna have to take over this place. He still got them young knees. Because the other day I had to bend down to get something and I just sat there for a second. I was like, oh shoot, I don't think I can get up. My knee popped. And I was like, what was that?
Right.
And that's the thing we don't talk about enough. Yep. And we don't give Black founders leeway to grow beyond what they initially built.
I think I agree with your perspective. I think though that like the frustration is also from the fact that like a lot of how they got to where they are is by saying like, yo, I'm Lloyd, I got this thing. It's Black owned, Black owned. It's to help the Black community. It's to Black. And so people that maybe wouldn't normally support me are supporting me for this specific mission.
Well, then Black people come buy it from me.
Sure. I agree.
Black people, any Black person, I sell you Black Power Collective, Black Power Festival for $10,000. Come run me a check. Here you go. You have it? You don't have it? Okay. Now, I'm not gonna lie. If it was a white person, it would be a lot more money.
The Black people get the discount.
Yeah. That's how I look at it.
I'm rocking with it. I like that.
I would probably shut it down before I let a white person buy it, though, if I'm being honest. Just because it's kind of weird.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
I get that.
Like, it's a little strange.
A lot, but sure.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, I love my person who writes our newsletters, but the amount of stuff that I'd be like, I don't think I'm comfortable with you saying that.
Right.
And like, she's great, but it's like you find yourself being like,
how do you know that?
And then you realize, like, wait, you gave her the content. She's writing as you.
Right.
So this is what you said. Like, even when she writes for my show, love you, Ellen. Even when she writes for my show, I'll find myself being like, I do not talk like that. She's like, you said that here. And I'm like, why does this sound different now that I know you wrote it?
Right.
I'm like, this is my own bias. This is me.
If
I sold it to somebody,
yeah, I
would be offended by anything you say. Like, you can't say that. That's our terms.
Exactly.
Well, don't do that.
Yeah, that's something people don't talk about a lot. Just like I am in a similar boat in the sense that like I have to hire a lot of people to help me like write stuff, where there's like TikTok scripts or like newsletters. And I think finding like Black creators, finding people that like understand your tone, that you can even afford, because all the Black people are so expensive. Just like finding people to work with it can be a challenge. So.
You see my face?
Yeah.
The person who runs our Instagram is not Black, guys. Who you're talking to is not a Black person. That's just...
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Love her to death. She is not Black.
Yeah.
She's good at what she does.
Right.
I still check behind things just to make sure, And it's funny because I see her, like, trying to change her tone to, like, sound more... And every time I laugh, because I'm like, I know this is something I would say, but knowing that it's you, I just be like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
you view it differently, but I get it.
As long as you don't say nigga, we good. Like, because that's where I be like, okay, I know I said it, but you don't write that. What's wrong with you? Don't, you're doing too much. Relax.
Right.
But
that's a fact.
It's just one of those things of it's like, we don't give us, like, it's difficult because of the fact that we are technically living in our ancestors' wildest dreams. Mm-hmm. So we are doing things that people in our community have never done before. Mm-hmm. So there is no playbook. My father has owned businesses, but he doesn't know anything about this internet space, so he can't really tell me how to go about it.
Yeah.
And that's the same way I look at what we're all doing.
Yeah.
Like, if you got tired of this tomorrow, then what happens? What is the exit strategy? What is different with Adode than Black Pod Collective and Black Pod Festival is that I have an exit strategy from this. Train up the people who will run this portion of it. I buy a bunch of properties and I just like sit at home. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe you have a garden or something like that. I show up every so often and freak everybody out because they're going to be like, ooh, Anna coming to the office. Right. Oh my God, Matthew, did she tell you she was coming? No, I didn't.
Right. That's boss coming. Yeah. No, I like that. I like that a lot.
Matthew's looking like, oh, so she going to just pop up. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Unannounced,
because that's the only way. In my moo too, because I've envisioned this. It has to be in my moo because I want the moo to just be flying by and people be like, oh my God, I know she's here. Yeah, I see a moo going by.
And you never come for anything specific. You're just there. You're just like hovering.
There.
Yeah.
Just as a presence.
Yeah.
Saying hello to people like, hey. And it's like, hi. No, I'm good. You good? Let me stay here with you. I'm just observe.
Right.
This looks good.
Facts.
That's it.
I agree. I like that.
Yeah. What's your exit strategy?
I don't have one just yet. I know that that's something I need to do. Sometimes I look at myself like I'm so like new to what I'm doing.
How long has it been?
I started like 2021, mid 2021.
When do you say you're not new? Like at what point? Because 2021, I think you're about to join into old head status like me.
I'm in this phase where I love like what I'm doing. Like it doesn't feel stressful. It feels like I put out the right amount of content. My community engages with. Maybe I'm like content. I'm content with where I'm at, and I just want to like be here for a little before like planning about the future or like worrying about like money. I just want to like coast, and that's kind of what I'm doing now.
I think because you still have a full-time job, you can do
that. That's a fact, 1,000%. And that like I thought like I tried being an entrepreneur before in 2015, and I went out and I just became a full-time entrepreneur.
Oh, how was that?
It was the most stressful thing I've ever done. And so I said if I ever did this again, like I would do it with like a job. Like I'd be okay like working like double, but then not having to worry about money.
So my last thing for you, because I think a lot of creators, we don't think about this. And once again, if you don't want to answer this, that's perfectly fine. First, I'm going to ask the question, do you and your wife plan on having children one day?
Yes.
So what do you think this looks like with having a human? And let's say she like has twins.
Yep.
Because I feel like as Africans, that just happens.
Yes. I would love twins, but that's a story for another day.
Would she love twins? Like that's the
She doesn't.
Okay, because I was like, I find it fascinating when men are like, I would love. And it's like, of course.
Right.
So what do you think your life would look like? Because you're content with working 2 jobs and not doing this full time. I don't have kids, but it looked like that's a 4th job.
Yeah.
Because it's 2 jobs in one. Like that's another 2.
That's a fact. And I feel like I haven't even figured that out yet. But I do know that that's like a reality. Like the way in which I live right now is there's times where like I'll wake up at like 5 or 6 a.m. and I'll work till like 11 p.m. just like waking up in the middle of the night, can't sleep, editing, back to sleep. Like I just live so wild. And I think we both know that like for where we're at, it's like, yo, let's just like go. And I think maybe for the last 2 years, we've both kind of like had that realization that like, yo, we don't know when these kids are coming, so let's just like, let's move, let's travel, let's do all the things.
I have been moving.
And yeah, that's how I feel.
I was like, I feel like the last time I saw you, were like, yeah, we're in New York. Now we're in California. I'm like,
yeah, I know.
Huh?
I know.
Didn't you used to live here?
I know.
I'm confused.
I'm tired just thinking about moving. So
are you about to move again?
No.
Oh, I was like, okay. Well, you have fun with that.
Right. Yeah, it's intense. Moving sucks. And so that at the phase I'm at, we're just both like, screw it, YOLO, let's just live. Hey. But I think once kids do get in the picture, we'll have to figure something different. I just don't know if it will be like my job or the content that has to like suffer.
Ooh.
So
5 things just went through my head, but we're going to look up and we're going to be talking here. At this point, I feel like Lloyd and I need to have a segment on the podcast together because, like, we could keep going. Matthew keeps looking like, I'm hot. Are we done yet? Like, you told me that this was a quick thing. This is not even our regular content day. I got to be back here next Saturday. I want to go to the movies.
We didn't record a month worth of content.
But no, before we head out, I want you to bless the audience with 4 pieces of advice that you have for them as content creators, as people building a platform, and as people wanting to, like, you know, he being real humble, but he's hit like $10,000, $15,000 months. And not everybody can say they've done that.
I really appreciate that. I was just thinking like, dang, like what, like if I had to summarize these 4 points, first of all, that's a lot of points. I was not expecting that.
You thought it was going to be like 2?
Yeah, 2, 3. She said,
I almost said 5, but I was like, it's 4.
Right. I love it. So I think like a lot of what you said this episode is going to be my points. I think like my point number 1 would be like, just be a person of integrity. And I think like a lot of people don't view that as like an advantage. Like I think know that like when people bring up your name, it's going to be in like high praises and that'll like set you apart. The second thing is like, just know that there's a lot that's out of your control. And if you believe in yourself, that like it kind of doesn't matter. Like at some point it all just like works itself out. So whether it's like this month, next month, it kind of doesn't matter. Like the one steadfast thing is like, yeah, you're going to be okay. And it's all going to kind of work out. And then I think the third thing would just be to like start where you are. I was just talking to a friend yesterday and he was like, I want to start this content thing. After I finally convinced him to just start now, he was like, can we do it next week? I was like, no, like I'm coming tomorrow. We'll record the content and you'll be a content creator. You don't have to like overthink it. And so I think a lot of people just like overthink it. And I do it too. And so just like start where, like ask yourself like why you can't start today and then figure out how you can like get rid of those like excuses. And then I think the 4th thing is like, this is like a marathon. And so and that's like why starting now matters. Like your first 100 videos or your first maybe like year of creating, it's kind of just like a wash. Like you're just like learning how to do it. You're getting comfortable hearing your voice. You're getting comfortable looking at yourself. So the faster you get to that year, the sooner you can actually like get good and hopefully like monetize what it is you're doing. Marathon.
All right then. Mic drop. Whew.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed this conversation. You know, I say every time I talk about podcasting, people always look at me like, bro, another podcast conversation again? Here, I'm at home. I could just like get all my thoughts out.
Yeah, like just let it out.
Yeah.
But no, thank you for taking the time. Like this was definitely not planned. Like it was one of those things of, I was like, he probably like, how I'm booking the studio. And she's like, hey, since you're going to be here, can you be on my podcast?
That's so funny.
But hey, you got to do that sometimes, you know? But no, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for basically interviewing me on my own podcast because that was not the plan. This was supposed to be how he built his thing, but you know, somehow.
Audience, I did that for y'all. You're welcome. So.
We're cutting it all. No. But no, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for supporting. As you know, as always, you can like, subscribe, follow on Instagram, all the things. I'm Ona Gogo, founder of Black Pod Collective, Black Pod Festival, and Adode Media, which is your full-service podcast production agency. And this week, like, this is probably going to be a multi-part episode because I don't know how long we've been talking. So if it's like past an hour, it probably has to be split up. But this was good content. Thank you so much. Please feel free to tell the audience where they can find you.
Absolutely. You can find me on all platforms at Lloyd, not George. That's at Lloyd, not George, across all platforms.
I was like, not George. I was like, you said Lloyd. I was like, nope, this is the name. Anyway, until next week, guys, you guys have a good one.
Peace.